Your career journey probably won't look like anyone else's, and that's exactly what makes it interesting. Welcome to Tallo Real Careers, Real Journeys, where we explore the twists and turns that lead people to where they are today. I'm excited to introduce Akshay and hear the path from student to an AI engineer at ISO. Akshay, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Aaron, so much for having me.
This is going to be a very interesting conversation, especially considering people's perception of the world of technology today. And starting off, I think a lot of people are curious about all aspects of this career field. The first question I'm going to start with is, what does a typical workday for you look like as an AI engineer?
Yeah, so jumping straight into that, a typical workday for me is basically building software systems, AI systems that are able to basically access a company's proprietary data and using that knowledge to answer questions that generic LLMs and generic AI systems cannot answer for the company. So taking company specific data and using that data to create systems that are more intelligent and more specific to the company that they are being developed for, and then answering users questions based on that.
That is very fascinating. And I think when it comes to any field of work, you have to have a specific personality to thrive in said industry. So, what kind of personalities thrive being an AI engineer?
An AI engineer, I would say the number one thing you have to have to be in this industry and to lead in this space is to always keep learning new things as they come up. Because what happens, especially in AI right now, is that the speed of progress that is going on is like exponential. It's like nothing we have ever seen before. And new systems, new technologies come up every week, every single month, and you have to keep up to date with it, or else your skills will get out of date really fast. And I think just being curious and exploring new technologies as they come up is like the one of the most important skills I've found useful in my journey.
Being on the consumer side of AI, I also have to agree. I think whether you're working in AI or just simply using a platform like ChatGPT, you have to be up to date with it. And being on the AI engineering side, you are contributing to something very meaningful and powerful for the future. And I wanted to ask, how does your role contribute to being so big in scale and so meaningful to the world?
So, as these AI technologies come up, once they are shipped out of the research lab by the researchers and by the big companies like OpenAI, it is up to us AI engineers to basically apply those technologies and solve real life problems or real user problems. So that's where AI engineers come in, where they take the research that has been done and then they implement systems that actually bring those research and bring those good things to the end user and make it more accessible to like the whole user base.
So, in order to get into AI, what skills or talents do you think would help people navigate into that field?
So to get into AI, I would say I think that, like I said before, you just have to not focus on all of the other aspects of computer science. So for example, when I started out, a lot of my friends told me to get into systems or into um, web design, etc. But I think the core principle I would say is to just focus on a niche and find out what you like inside of AI. So in AI as well, we have a lot of different fields, right? So we have like traditional ML based systems. Now we have this generative AI, which in and of itself, it has a lot of different things like those image models, text models, and I would say really narrow down your profile and build your profile for a certain specific niche subject in AI. And if you establish yourself as an expert in that, I think that there are a lot of opportunities opening up, and it's definitely a very important thing to basically focus on a niche and get into that.
100%. Education is super essential when it comes to learning and adapting to new things. So, I wanted to ask, what did you study in school and how did it prepare you for the role that you're currently in?
So during my undergrad, I studied generic computer engineering, and I also had an honors in data science during that time. So this base gave me a like a entire broad view of the landscape of computer science and I got aware about different areas of computer science. And then during my masters, right now, doing computer science again. And although my coursework is not AI specific, I make it a priority to basically focus my personal projects, my free time in learning about specific AI topics or specific AI subjects. And that's what I would say. So the coursework really helped me to get a broader understanding of what is going on with the software industry and how other things are done. But I would say like the cherry on top would be to really just focus on AI and make sure that you know the ins and outs of it.
Wonderful to hear that. And another thing that people think about when it comes to understanding new technology is what's coming up next. And what do you think are some of these specific opportunities to grow if somebody was to get into an AI engineering career?
So what I would say is that since all of these, have you heard of the AI coding agents that have been becoming popular?
Yes.
Yes. So, I feel like over the next 2 to 3 years, I think that most of the coding can be offloaded to these AI coding assistants. And then the job of a programmer really changes fundamentally because of that. So I think that uh, people should, of course, know about programming and know about coding, but I feel like the semantics and the small pedantic stuff that was required, like learning the syntax, learning best practices, that is still important. But I feel like on top of that, if we learn prompt engineering or if we learn how to get the best output out of an AI system or an LLM to help us code, that will make you like 10 times faster. So I have experienced this in my work as well. When you are taking the help of a coding assistant, and if you know exactly how to prompt it or exactly get what you want out of it, then it makes your work like a breeze. So I think that that is one area that in the coming years that will improve because uh, like as we are seeing more and more technologies are coming which are having like full autonomy of the code, so they just go and try to do the whole project, but then they fail at it right now. I'm not sure what's going to happen with them in the future, but you have to really like be on top of like guided step by step, and once it gives you some sort of code, you have to really be able to understand why it is doing that. And then if you tell it exactly what to do, then you'll get a much better experience with this system than if you're not able to like really control it.
And I think you've been touching on some very wonderful insight when it comes to understanding what this technology is and where it's going. And I wanted to ask, are there any specific certifications that helped you get started that you would tell another young person to get in order to be prepared for this kind of field?
Yes, so during my undergraduate studies, I did the TensorFlow developer certificate from TensorFlow, and I think it has been discontinued now because of the same thing. Like it was a coding certificate, but like I said, now coding is becoming like a really different field altogether than it was when I did it. But that certificate really helped me like get the authority and get like freelance gigs through that and basically build my profile. So that is one AI certificate I did. And I also did a cloud certificate from Google Cloud, which is called the Google Cloud Digital Leader Certificate. And I think that is also like a good auxiliary thing to have because many of these companies use these cloud platforms like Azure, AWS, and Google Cloud Platform to build and deploy their AI systems. And I think if you have knowledge about cloud and ML ops, as they say, that is going to also help augment your profile a lot.
I think you touched on things that might be intimidating for people to hear, especially when it comes to, hey, if I learn this thing and then they're not teaching it anymore, for example, coding, if coding is outdated, I think people would get intimidated to hear that, which I completely understand. Technology is always evolving and there are always things that are coming in, but there's also things that are coming out. And it seems like the idea that new technologies are coming in and things are getting pushed aside, it almost makes you think, is that the most difficult part of being an AI engineer? is the fact that certain things that you may have learned going outdated, is that the hardest part of your job, or is there something else that you would claim is more difficult?
I think it might just be the hardest part because I've seen people that are like in the software industry for like 10, 20 years. And what has happened now is people that are just joining the industry with a few years of experience like me are at the same level of playing field as all of the other people because this technology is new for everyone, right? And I feel like you can either look at that as a bad thing or you can look at that as an opportunity. And I would suggest that it is a great opportunity, that the barrier to entry is like the same for everyone. I won't say coding is outdated. I would say that the day to day tasks that are expected from a programmer or a coder have evolved and will continue to evolve in the future. But as a whole industry, I think AI will definitely benefit the software industry, and it would in my opinion, I think it would create more jobs, which is like contrary to what many people might believe because, like we discussed, that coding has changed. But I feel like since coding has become quote unquote easier, I feel like many companies which would benefit from having software in their products or their processes, but they were not able to afford that software in the past, would now want to have those software implemented in their companies. So even if like the work uh, needed to implement that has reduced, I feel like there are more and more companies that would demand software. So basically, uh, to cut it all short, I think that we should look at this like an opportunity rather than a challenge.
That's wonderful. And what advice would you give to somebody just getting into this field? Because it is so new, but you also are a person that has had experience that led you to this point. So I feel like your insight is very impactful.
Yes, and the advice would be to start with Python. Python is like the most widely used programming language for AI. Yeah, I don't know if that's a good thing because it is definitely slower than C++, but uh, having Python, then knowing the fundamentals of large language models, how they work, how the transformer architecture actually enables all of these magical systems is like the core. So just start learning Python, get good at it. Don't use AI to like replace your actual learning process. Use it to enhance your learning process. So use AI to know more about how Python works or how certain things are working. Do not overlook like how the code works on the inside. So if you are learning, you should definitely use it to like not get like an output, but instead focus on how that output is being generated.
That's very interesting to hear. I think when it comes to technology, people are suspicious of it. They don't truly trust it. You know, there are people that won't get into a Waymo because that's a self-driving car. They don't know what
Oh
that
yes.
does. And I think when it comes to that intimidation, it also brings up myths that we may have. So, are there any myths about AI engineers that you could tell us about?
Any myths? That's a tough one. I mean, like, I don't know about myths, but like you pointed out rightly about Waymo, trust and transparency and confidence on these systems is definitely something a lot of work still has to be done on. And surprisingly, the systems are not as unreliable as people might think. So of course there will be edge cases where like the Waymo would not be able to decide if it wants to change a lane or not. Of course those edge cases will exist, but they exist with humans as well, right? So humans are not like perfect drivers of cars, but these systems are built by basically training on the whole internet or the whole data from humans. So they are of course going to be a bit imperfect, but I feel like that people should trust this whole process more. And I feel like in the future AI is going to become inevitable. So rather than ignoring it or rather than being scared of it, I would suggest to like dive deep into it and look at all of the new opportunities that are coming up because of it.
I completely agree with you on adapting to technology and trying to understand it, not running from it, because at the end of the day, it's inevitable. Things are going to continue to evolve, and things are going to be in your house that might turn on your lights automatically. We're kind of getting at that point. And I wanted to ask, being an AI engineer, what is your work setup like? Do you work remotely, on site, or is it a blend?
So right now I'm working fully remote.
And how do you like that?
Oh, it's the best. I
Yeah.
definitely enjoy it a lot. I can work from the comfort of my home, and um, I mean there are some benefits to like in office work as well. But I think just after COVID, many companies have gotten comfortable with the idea of uh, remote workers, and some companies have actually gone fully remote as well. So I think if it were up to me, I would make all companies remote.
I totally get that. And there are definitely some benefits to working in the office, but working remote is really a blessing. Through my years being at home, I got to witness my father working remote predominantly, but he also went into the office. So I thought it was interesting to hear his input on soft skills and technical skills when it came to kind of doing like hybrid work. And I wanted to ask another question that's kind of in that same realm. What is your setup like? So if you had to tell somebody you need to go get this stuff so you can be an AI engineer, what would they need to get?
So do you mean that in the context of hardware or software?
I think we should cover both. I think that's very important.
Okay, so starting with the hardware, I would say just a basic laptop that is able to connect to the internet would also do, because when I started out, I got a really fancy laptop with like GPUs in it, and I wanted to learn how they work. I wanted to train AI models on them. But today, I feel like people think that it is a blocker, that they need like a super huge, expensive computing device. But with the innovations happening in cloud, I feel like you can learn AI just fine on Google Colab or on any sort of virtual machine. So all you need is like a laptop that has the ability to connect to internet, which is not terribly slow, and I think you should be good. And then in terms of software, I would say Python, then a good IDE. I use VS Code for that. And nowadays, AI native IDEs are also becoming popular. So, for example, Cursor or Windsurf, you could explore those options. They will help you code a lot faster. But then again, when working for a company, there are rules and regulations, you have to follow them. So but on for learning, for personal projects, you can definitely try using them.
That's awesome to hear. And another question I think gets brought up a lot when it comes to studies is how can I get into a career field that I didn't necessarily study for? So, for example, if somebody goes into computer science and ends up landing an AI engineering job, they didn't necessarily study AI engineering. So, could a person with a business degree also go into this industry?
Yes, definitely. And I feel like today access to information is like the most democratic it has been in human history. You can literally go on YouTube and you will find videos from like the directors at the AI directors at Tesla, from Y Combinator, from everyone. Like you can also find master level courses on YouTube which teach AI, and that is actually exactly how I learned myself during my undergrad. So just go on YouTube, go on the internet, look for good course material that actually teaches AI, and then just once you learn how to do things hands on, it really doesn't matter if you have a degree in some other field. I feel like the work that you do speaks for itself. And another thing I would greatly suggest is doing open source coding or open source contributions. So there you would actually get experience working on real life production level code, and that is like invaluable. So if you're able to go on the internet, teach yourself, not rely on like some sort of formal education or degree, that is perfectly fine as well.
And talking about a field like this, how has your career changed since you started?
I mean, since I'm pretty new, so I'm still completing my master's degree, but I would definitely say that I mean, I feel like that it has changed in the ways I described earlier. So the nature of my work on a day-to-day basis has changed since AI has become more popular. Before that, I had to do a lot of things by hand. I had to spend a lot of hours coding by hand. So I feel like as an AI engineer, my work has also been becoming easier with the help of AI.
Very wonderful to hear. And I wanted to hear a couple more things. And away from the technology side, how would you describe your company and culture?
Oh, it's amazing. So I really love the culture at ISO. It's pretty laid back. We are very hardworking, but we don't put like stringent, unnecessary pressure on each other. And I would say it's a great company and a great culture to be in.
Thank you for sharing that. And Akshay, what would you tell your younger self if you could go back in time and give that younger self advice before starting out in this career?
I have actually thought about this question a lot for myself before, and I would say just have faith and just have trust on what you're doing. So, like I said, there were a lot of moments where I was not getting internships or where I was struggling to like see the road ahead, and I was pretty swayed by the people around me to get into other areas of computer science. So I was about to get into embedded systems or about to get into other areas which I did not really like, but that was because I did not have faith in AI, or I did not trust AI as much, and I did not see how good it could be in the future. So that's one advice I would give to myself. Just focus on your craft, stay in your lane, and just don't get swayed by some short-term failure or some short-term problems. Just focus on the big vision and keep putting the work in every day.
I think you provided a wonderful response to that because I could almost see that conversation going down. It seemed like a very reflective question for you. And I'm glad you answered it so wonderfully because I think a lot of young people are in that position where they're like, I don't really know. I'm kind of doubting my choices. And not that they made bad ones, they're doubting good decisions. They're doubting their decisions on what they studied, maybe what certificate they got. They're doubting it because it's hard to foresee what's coming. So thank you for
Yes,
that wonderful reflection because you couldn't have put it any better. That was fantastic.
thank you so much.
Akshay, thanks for sharing your experiences and knowledge with us today. Hopefully, our Tallo talent picked up some insights that surprised or sparked something new. Everyone's path is going to be a bit different, but that's what makes it yours. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and remember, there's no single right way to build a career. We'll be back next time with another completely different story from a totally different field because the more paths you see, the more possibilities you'll discover for yourself.